Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's a full 40 with Chris, Rob, and Willie, part of the Nova Insider Network. It is Sunday, February 19th, roughly 8:20 p.m. as we are recording this, coming to you after another Villanova loss to a top-quality opponent. We fall to 13-14 in the Big East season. We did get to 500 again earlier in the week versus Butler since we last talked with you. But fall to 13-14 on the season, 7-9 in conference, and we're sitting pretty strongly in the 7th slot in terms of Big East tournament seeding. So I mean, this podcast, let's just kind of jump right into it. I kind of want to go right into the men's basketball team. I do want to cover Maddie and the women's team and that sellout that they had versus UConn, because that was also a huge game. But I want to table that for the moment right now and focus kind of on the task at hand. And I'll start by saying that I am wearing a vest, which is not uncommon for Villanova fans, but I am wearing a golf vest because I am starting to plan out some tee times for March. because I won't be watching college basketball if my predictions are accurate, which I think a lot of people were already at, but I was holding out a little bit of hope that maybe this team would show me something or show us something that might indicate some future potential success. But I'm sorry, after what I thought were 3 encouraging games at home, I'm coming at this game after Providence, and I've been holding off saying this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm issuing a vote of no confidence here.
Real quick, you walked into something that the Providence students did. I'm pretty sure it was golf. I went to the Providence game. It was golf day, so all the Providence were in their golf outfits, and I think it was because they were playing Villanova and they were making fun of Villanova fans always going golfing. So you walked into that one. Just gonna let you know.
I mean,
Providence
good for
fans
them.
got you. They got you.
I don't walk away from a stereotype. I am a sweater vest wearing Villanova fan. I'm proud of it. I can be a douchebag. I don't really think I am that much of a douchebag, but that's just kind of who I am. I own who I am. That's part of life. You got to own who you are. But Rob, you're like glazed over here, man.
I'm just looking at, I was just looking at the rest of our schedule after you said that, because I think I've been at the same point that you've gotten to for a little bit, but it's like the finish from here on out is really not fun. I mean, you've got 4 really tough games, 3 ranked opponents, and then Seton Hall, who's not going to be a tough out, playing at their home, and it's already looking like, all right, we're 13-14, and I don't know, best case you come out of this 15-16 in my mind. So that's it's not getting it done. It's not getting it done.
And that's not getting an NIT berth either. So
yeah.
Would we play in the CBI?
Ooh.
The Chris Bellotti Invitational, maybe. No,
Yikes.
but look, it was another game where we were competitive for a while, right? Like, and candidly, we didn't deserve to be competitive. I actually don't think Providence played a terrific game. Like, I thought that they got a really good whistle. And I'm not blaming the referees. I just thought that they got a really good whistle at home. I thought that they didn't play particularly well. And we just couldn't do anything offensively. And then down the stretch, the defense just kind of collapsed as we were trying to go nuts to try and get back in the game late. And it's just, so we just collapsed offensively, which led to giving up a ton of points. But like we that game was held pretty tight. The final score doesn't indicate the way the game was played, but the reality of the situation is that we don't make the plays. So it's sorry, I wanted to take one step back. Kyle has been asked, what do you think about the last 5 minutes, this, that, and the other thing? He's been asking the media about this a lot because the media has picked up on this over the last several weeks or whatever. what do you make of the team disintegrating down the stretch in games? And Kyle's answer has been like, I've impressed upon our team that the possession in 38 minutes into the game, that the rebound that you can get 38 minutes into the game is no different than the rebound you can get 2 minutes into the game. I get the coach speak of that there. Like, obviously, like, that's what the coach is supposed to say. You're not devaluing earlier possessions, and he's trying to make sure he avoids that. But his point was basically, we need to execute the entire game. And we're not executing the entire game. And that was kind of the point that he went to. It was his point. And so I kind of actually agree with him. And watching that game, I found that, yeah, we disintegrated down the stretch late, but like, honestly, like, we didn't play the way we needed to play throughout that game. And a perfect encapsulation about that, and I'm making this the theme for me of this podcast. The perfect encapsulation of that was we get a breakaway dunk from Cam Whitmore to go up, I think it was 40-39 with like 16 minutes left in the second half. After fighting all the way back down from 15. We couldn't shoot the ball in the first half. It was a disaster offensively in the first half, but we managed to get it within 5. And then with 16 minutes left in the game, we take the lead for the first time in the game, and credit the guys for that fight. And then they come down, they miss another shot, and we had a perfect opportunity to really work the ball and extend it off a 1-point game to just a larger 1-possession game, or maybe a 2-possession game at that point in time, to start to build some momentum here. And in that moment, our 6th-year senior Caleb Daniels, with like 15 seconds left on the shot clock, shoots a 3-pointer from 30 feet out off the dribble, and it clanks out. We have to hustle back. We don't get set. And in the secondary break, they drill a 3 in our face, take the lead 42-40. And then there was never any, like, and then they kind of took control of the game from there. That was it. That was a perfect encapsulation game. That play did not happen within the last 5 minutes of the game. That play literally changed the tide of the entire game. And it's not the only play. I hate singling out Caleb because we've discussed on the podcast. He's an excellent kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's a full-blown adult. He's like 24, 25 years old. But he's an excellent guy. Like, I don't hate him, the person, or anything like that. And he's been a good contributor for the team overall this season. At the same time, that is just not the play that a 6th-year senior can make. And I'm also going to point out that, like, you could say, oh, that's bad coaching, but this guy's been coached by Jay Wright for like 3 or 4 years. So, like, he knows not to take that shot. Like, at this point, like, he doesn't need another guy to tell him, don't take that stupid shot. Like this is not you. And that play, unfortunately, to me, encapsulates a lot of problems with this team. Is like, we fight. We've seen it how many times? We give up big leads. We find our way to fight back into the game. And the moment we kind of get over the hump, or about to get over the hump, we have an absolute disgraceful offensive possession, get lost on defense. The other team jumps all over us. And then the momentum's lost, and we start giving it all back.
It's happened in every single game that we've lost this season, with the exception of maybe the Portland game. That the Portland game might be the only one where I felt like we were thoroughly dominated, which is so funny to say, but thoroughly dominated from start to finish. Every other game, there was a moment where we came back and we made that mistake, whether it was in the Creighton game, Caleb shooting with 20 seconds on the clock, that pull-up fadeaway, driving into the lane when we had control in the lead, whether it was missing free throws down the stretch, whether it was just bad last play call execution as we think about Michigan State, things like that. Regardless, every single game has been that. So it's just, if we're talking about, like, like to talk about narratives, that's just the narrative. It's been the narrative of every single loss has been, and the reason we changed our name is we can't play 40 minutes of Villanova basketball. We'll play 38, we'll play 35, and then we'll make an incredibly boneheaded play down the stretch. I said this after the DePaul loss, and honestly, maybe DePaul is another one that we just kind of lost. Honestly, I'll give DePaul credit there. But I said this after the DePaul loss. This is just who we are. This is what this team is, and we can hope for a miracle, and like all of a sudden for their stripes to change, but this is who we are.
It's not going to. Sorry, go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the things that we haven't talked about a little bit as much is if you think about that last 5 minutes, historically in the past 10 years or so, you've always had basically that killer. You've had that alpha dog who's going to take over, who you can reliably know, like, hey, we're putting the ball in Colin's hands, or we're putting the ball in Jalen's hands, or Josh, or like literally whoever it is. And you know that they're going to do a couple of things. One, they're going to make the right decision, which is your point, Pilati. And two, they're going to have that ability to either create something or take over, make their own shot, make the right pass. And that just gives you something to fall back on. It also throws the other team off too, because they're looking at that player, that they're expecting something, and that they're going to be a little bit wary, which can, play on your mental psyche a little bit. And this year, you want to say it's Justin, but it's not quite yet. Like he's still not 100%. We haven't seen Justin of old, which, again, you wouldn't expect, but that means you don't really have that player. Like it's not Caleb. You'd love for it to be Cam, but it's not Cam. Cam hasn't shown the reliability to be able to do that and say, we're giving you the ball, 5 minutes left, work your magic. We haven't seen the decision-making. We haven't seen the performance. You want to say maybe it's Dixon, but I don't know, playing in the post as much, he's not as much in that role. So for all those reasons, we just don't have that guy who's a steadying presence, who can create, who can make good decisions. And that, I think, is a huge reason why we end up where we are. Everybody's kind of looking around yeah, I'll take this shot, I'll take that shot. It's okay, well, it doesn't get it done.
Okay, offensively, there's not a lot of cohesion, right? And candidly, the cohesion comes from leaders on the court. And I think, Rob, you were getting at that with Colin and Jalen. They didn't always take the shot. They weren't always the guy who took the shot. They were the guys who, if they had to take the shot, they were happy to take the shot. But they were the guys who you put the ball in their hands to make the right decision, because those were the guys who valued each and every possession the most.
Yeah.
And this team, and specifically the 5th and 6th year senior on this team in Caleb and Brandon Slater, candidly, have not demonstrated that they value the possessions the way that you have seen us value possessions in the past. And the problem is that we play slow as molasses. So if you are playing slow, right? If you play fast, like a St. John's, which they're not a good example, but Xavier may be a better example. If you play fast like them, you're getting 75 cracks at it a game, right? 75 offensive possessions a game. Okay. So if you turn the ball over 10 times playing 75 possessions, you get 65 shots up, right? Those are for lack of a better term, right? We play 60 to 65 possessions a game. So if we turn the ball over, even let's just say we don't turn the ball over that much, we turn the ball over 5 times. That's 60 or 58, just to use an average, 58 possessions a game where we get a chance to shoot a ball, right? You're not good. You can't have that be both true, right? If you're going to play faster, you can deal with more turnovers because you still have more cracks at it. If you're going to play slower, you can't deal with even a moderate amount of turnovers. You can't be a moderate turnover team. I still think we actually lead I think we lead the conference in turnovers per game in terms of in a good way, not in a bad way. I think that's accurate. I could be wrong there. Willie might be checking the stats.
We're 39th in the country in turnover rate. I'm working to see what that is conference.
Yeah. So point being is that we value the rock, but at the same time, overall, but at the same time, have only so many offensive possessions. And when I mean value the ball, we're talking turnovers, but turnovers aren't the only way. That Caleb possession that we were referring to earlier, that's not valuing a possession. That's not valuing a possession whatsoever. Getting up a bad shot. Look, if it's 3 seconds left in the shot clock, the defense played you well, and you got to chuck one, fine. I get that, right? That in that situation, that's just how basketball works sometimes, and you got to get a shot up, and whatever it is. But in this circumstance, pulling up off the bounce is Villanova 2012, 2011 bullshit. Like, this is just not who we are,
And
what we've become.
And so first off, Marquette is the only one ahead of us. They're 22nd
Okay,
in the
that makes
country.
sense.
And that makes sense, especially with Kolek running the show. But to your point, I think where it just gets in, like, if we just think about this in the most simple terms, it's okay. So we have 65 possessions. We turn it over, let's say 8 times a game. I don't know what the actual number is. I'm just looking at turnover rate. But it's like 8 times a game. So that's 57 possessions to score, give or take. We're also not as good of an offensive team as we've been in the past.
Right.
And so our efficiency across the board is lower. And so you're going to score less than those 57 possessions. And between like you've pointed out, between not really valuing those possessions and making the decisions at the time. And I don't think like Caleb or Brandon or anyone is making any of these plays is thinking that they don't value the possession. That's not what they're thinking, obviously. Yeah. But what they're thinking, what I'd assume they're thinking is, I need to make a play instead of I need to make the right play. And I think that's just what, in short, I think that's just what it is. Caleb's shot was, I need to make a play. We have momentum. He hits that 3 and it's a huge killer, but it's a terrible shot, just objectively. It was not a good shot. It was not the right play in that moment. Despite that, this team was still able to be in a position to win. I'll say win the game, but then Providence hit 2 moon shots, which we can, you can talk about that all you want. But at the end of the day, we put ourselves in a position to win, which is a testament to the team has guts, despite everything that's gone wrong this season. They have been in a position that with basically every game, besides Portland, with less than 4 minutes left, they've been in a position to win the basketball game if they made the right play, and we haven't been doing that.
Yeah. So look, there's been a lot of discussion around the coaching. I actually think that in the last few games, I think Kyle's called some decent games here. I haven't watched the game being like, the fuck is that substitution?
Yeah, I agree.
That's just one thing. He's also drawn up some good plays.
Yeah.
I've actually seen some good stuff happening from I think Kyle's actually made some improvements. Now it's off a low base. We can be honest and say that he didn't have a good start. We're very much on the patient front here. And he's 38 years old, 37 when he started, first year head coach, blah, 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 blah. We don't have to repeat ourselves. But I actually think that he's had a few good games in the last stretch here. And you can't have in a game where you're at Providence, objectively a good team with the best coach in the conference, right? In my opinion, he's just won Naismith Coach of the Year. I don't think that's a hot take, but best coach in the conference, probably the best environment in the conference, in terms of intensity of their fan base. That's an imposing environment, right? People all of that situation, you have to be spot on. Perfect is not right because no one's perfect, but you have to be spot on. You have to if you're not going to hit shots, you have to value the shit out of the possession. You have to take the best quality shots that you possibly can get, and you have to be disciplined in a way that this team isn't. And candidly, I think that's what led to my opening monologue in terms of the vote of no confidence. Is that I don't have confidence because the seniors who have been with this program for a very long time and have had this drilled into their head for a very long time are not demonstrating that it's going to click. And there isn't another factor that seems to be coming up, right? Justin Moore at 60%, 70% of himself, right? Is not coming up to make all the right decisions. He makes it better. Certainly makes it better. We would have won more games earlier in the season with Justin. I don't debate that. We might be in a position where we could be on the bubble of the NCAA tournament if we had Justin the whole year. But they just aren't demonstrating this ability to make the right decisions, to get the right play, to get the right shot, whether it's in the last 5 minutes of the game or candidly throughout the game. If we happen to find ourselves in the right shot, it feels like we got lucky to find the right shot as opposed to this is just habitually who we are.
And this is going to sound contradictory, but I also feel weirdly enough, we're being a little too passive in the way that when we get into our sets, I feel like we start to drive, we kick, we drive, we kick. I feel like we have opportunities where like there's a good shot, and then we have opportunities where there's a good shot, and then we're kind of forced to take a dumb shot. And I think this really comes into like when I was watching the Providence game, Providence did the token press that they did a full court press to us where consistently we were getting the ball across at like 22 seconds. We were dribbling for 5, and then we had 17 seconds to run our offense around, and consistently around maybe the 9-second mark there was a good shot, and we tried to look for a better shot, but Providence is too good of a defensive team to let that happen. And I think we're getting put in a position, and Providence did this to us very well. Shout out to Cooley. We're just like, this team isn't good enough to win a game with 17 seconds on the shot clock. Like, and we're trying to be methodical, but we're not good enough offensively to be methodical. So this gets to your point, which we've said all year, like we should probably have been running a bit more and being faster paced and get more possessions, because that's the only way we would be able to make up for some of these. And it also plays into the strengths of Cam and Mark.
Yeah, getting the it always kind of drove me nuts historically when I think about the passing up the good shot for the better shot. Like I even thought like in prime, like 2018 era, there were plenty of times where I'm like, guys, like just fucking shoot the ball. Like it's a good enough look, and you pass around and you're like, and then sure enough, like, yeah, you're swinging around fast enough. And the athletes and the players on the floor were good enough that somehow you ended up with a great look at 2 seconds left. But I think you hit the nail on the head of just like, the players we have aren't, and maybe the situation that we're getting ourselves into there, like there's either not enough time left or the team isn't quite good enough and seasoned enough to be able to create that great shot on the back end. And then you just end up with, okay, well, we're in theory executing what we're supposed to because we're giving up good for great, but we're not actually able to find great. And you just end up with a shit output at the end of the day. But I don't know.
Some of it's just personnel. We have like arguably the most athletic squad that we've had since the 2018 team. And the problem is that like not all the guys are athletic. Some of the guys are more methodical.
It's a weird meshing.
It's a very weird mesh. And Kyle, and it's really not honestly a criticism, but he's just not an experienced or good enough coach yet to make that work. But like playing the 350th tempo offense in the country or whatever the number is, but we're down in that area, it ain't it. Like this team just does not value the possessions enough, right? Like it's just the case. Like I don't know how to say it better than that. Like we just do not value every single possession in the way that you need to if you are going to be the 350 plus slowest team in the country.
I think I feel like part of what we're saying, I think we've danced around this like a little bit in some of the other podcasts as well, is like what you're getting at is Kyle needs to look at the team, look at the personnel, and be able to put his own style on it, his own print on it, and say, we need to change X, Y, and Z from what we did previously. And I think it's a result of a few things. One, him being a newer coach, him two, not having like a full, like, yeah, I know he had a full off season, but like not really, I'll say. To actually assess the talent, figure out what he wants to do with the team, what he values as a coach, because he needs to come up with what his value system is, like what he thinks is going to work well versus not work well, and start to really put that imprint on the team. And I just don't think he's had the chance to do that yet. So ideally, then I think coming back next year, I think we'll see more changes to that, where Kyle starts to say, this is my style, this is the stuff that I want to try. And it's going to adjust, and the players are going to adjust to it. And if they don't want to adjust to it, like they can go somewhere else. And I have to imagine like some of those conversations will be had too. I'm not insinuating anything about the transfer portal. That's just like the reality of it. Like that happens on every campus, like every professional organization. New coach, new leader comes in and says, hey, here's what I want to do as my style. And like some people it fits, some people it doesn't. But
to your point, I mean, I hope that's the change we see from Kyle, that he adapts to his style. But it's so interesting. I don't know if y'all remember in the beginning of the year, like it may have been in the summer, I think they were interviewing Colin, or Colin maybe did something on Twitter that it felt like things were looser around Villanova. Like Kyle brought in like more energy and was a little bit looser. Yeah. It's so interesting because Jay was so meticulous that everything had to be done to a point. Everything was done on repetition to a point, to a point, to a point, and it wasn't loose in a like a. Jay is more strict than Kyle. That's just what it was.
Yeah,
or what it is, and so if you think about this team and the way that it is, Kyle's still trying to play this team like Jay would play this team. It's very clearly like he's learned from Jay and he's trying to play like Jay would.
Totally.
But this team is not as disciplined, and that's not like a Kyle doesn't know how to discipline the team. It's just like they've been put into a more free flowing, loose environment, which I think is good overall. But then it's like that should be reflected in our play, but instead I feel like the attention to the details has lacked just a bit more from Jay to Kyle, and that makes complete sense because you have a coach in year 2 as compared to Jay Wright, who had 28 years of coaching experience, 4 Final Fours, has been there before and understands it. But I think you're seeing that be taken into it. Like that lack of detail is hurting us in the way that we play currently. Yeah. I think whatever Kyle's been, Kyle's still a disciple of Jay, so I'm sure it's going to be to some level look like that. But next year, Kyle will have a little bit more time to put whatever his spin is, whatever Kyle Neptune basketball looks like to him, and I'm hoping we start to see some progress there.
Yeah,
we're already talking about next year.
But well, guess what?
Yeah,
based on this is kind of my point is that like, look, I'm not right. Look. Far be it for me to count out a Villanova team from anything, but the reality of the situation is this: is what you said is it's so obviously a mismatch out there. It's and not a mismatch in terms of like one player versus another. We draw plenty of mismatches trying to defend other teams, but the point is that like it's a mismatch in terms of a mismatch of personnel, a mismatch of style. The whole thing is just awkward. It just looks like a teenage dance out there. Like say it better than that. It's like fucking sophomore cotillion.
I love that.
Everyone's fucking awkward as shit.
It doesn't. Nobody quite knows what to do. It's kind of like
occasionally someone scores, but that's not really like that's just luck of the draw.
Like, has the offense looked good to you at any point aesthetically?
Oh my God, that's so good.
At any point this season, aesthetically, has it looked good?
God, no. Look, at any point, yeah, like for 5-minute stretches, it's look good, right? But does the offense look good? Where I say like, Villanova basketball, baby, here's what's going to come next game. Like, no idea. Like, what's going to look like game to game. Like, other than the fact that like it's going to not look great. But like that's basically what watching this team on paper looks like. Is like that analogy I'm actually saying kind of holds up. Like it looks like an awkward ass like prepubescent teenage dance. It just looks like that on the court. Like they're just like all awkward, like trying to like dance around and whatever, and and like people like ass out hugs and like people reaching out to dance. Like it's just a fucking so awkward out there. And like part of that is just like Cam wasn't there for the first 7 weeks. Justin wasn't there for the first 7 games. Justin wasn't there for the first 20 some odd games. Like it's just awkward. It's and it's not getting better. And we've had Justin on the floor for 7 weeks, and it's not better. The offense isn't better than it was when Chris Archidiakono was running the point. Like, just call a spade, right? Like, it's just so. My point is that looking towards next year, I really think that the emphasis that Kyle needs to make is candidly like, do your thing, bro. Like what do you got, right? Because I can tell you the Fire Neptune crowd is only going to get louder if he keeps trying to play this like Jay basketball that's not really him, because it's obviously not him, and that's just not who we have to be. And for that reason, if you're going to have super seniors who don't value possessions, I'm kind of the opinion. Look. Obviously, Caleb's got to play 30 minutes a game. I'm not saying that, but like Caleb's got to play 30 minutes a game. Slater's going to play 25 plus minutes a game. Like, fine. But like if you're gonna have super seniors who are gonna not value as much, put Mark Armstrong on the court. Because that's a guy who you have to recruit again next year. Because if Mark Armstrong says, I want to walk, right? Like Mark Armstrong, like that's not a guy who we should let walk. Like we got to go balls out for Mark because I view Mark as like the next Villanova point guard. Maybe I'm alone in this.
I do
like,
too.
I love Mark Armstrong.
Yeah.
And like I hope his parents listen to this because your son is to me is going to be the guy who restarts this entire fucking thing. Right. Like and gets this going in the right direction again. Because that's honestly my belief. Like I think that Mark is the guy who is going to get this program out of the doldrums that's probably going to last another season. And I think he's the guy who's going to carry us right the hell out of it because he is so good. He is so talented. He makes pretty good decisions overall with the ball. And like, he actually like is pretty money from the mid range. Like
let me get to his mid-range pull-up. I really like it.
Yeah. He's got to work on the finishing around the cup. He's a very much a freshman in terms of finishing around the cup. He'll get his shot better as his time in the program goes on. But he's quick, he's fast, he's got good hands.
He's fun.
He's a fun player to watch.
Like, could you imagine him? Could you imagine him 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Like 3 years of development, like assuming he's here. Like that's awesome. That's a really fun, fast, tough player to guard. That's really cool.
And to me, like if you look at the Fordham team and how they're one of the stories of the country under Keith Urgo, who used to be at Villanova. But they're one of the stories of the country. But if you look at how Fordham plays, which is they play a similar style to how Kyle was implementing last year before he got called up at the 11th hour to go take the Villanova job. Like Mark Armstrong is like the perfect version of what they do at Fordham. Like he is a Kyle Neptune player, right? Like so, like I was an advocate of Armstrong coming off the bench as the sixth man. I still am fine with that given the personnel that we currently have on the team. But like, man, like get that guy in earlier. Like make him the 09 Corey Fisher, right? Like get this guy going because I think that's how we're gonna get there. Like let Mark and Cam play a little bit of a two-man game, Hausen, whatever. But like the idea of this methodical possession by like Caleb of dribbling it into the paint or pulling up from three to take low percentage shots. It's just it just ain't it. It's just not it.
Last 4 or 5 games of the season. What are you playing for at this point? Let's develop some guys.
What's bothered me about just that like methodical possession is it's just like what are we being methodical for? So we work into the paint, and every player on our team is guilty of this. Well, they'll work into the paint, and the idea is they're not looking to pass it out.
No, never.
And every team has realized that, and so they'll send two, or they'll dig with another person from the top, and it doesn't matter whether it's Justin, whether it's Caleb, whether it's Brandon, whether it's Eric. Realistically, those are the 4 that are really doing it. Cam really doesn't even do it that often, but they'll get there and they'll just pivot, and they'll either hope to get bailed out by a foul or it's getting blocked. Like those are really the 2 options. Like they're not making it in that situation. Obviously when they're able to get a little bit, when they're able to pivot and it's like one move, then they're scoring more often than not. But when they're pivoting, I'm sitting there and I'm seeing Hausen standing on the corner, or I see Slater open in the corner. I'm just like, kick it out to them and let them shoot that 3 because they're not going to get a better shot than that. And it's so interesting that we're being methodical to drive into the paint, and we're getting into the paint. We're getting 2 feet into the money area, and it's not going up immediately. It's being methodical, and it's not kicking it out. It's not kicking it out to an open person. We're like 2 foot in the paint, kick to the corner, should be hitting a 3. And it's 2 feet in the paint, and we're there, and we're there, and we're there, and we're pivoting. And okay, we're going up, and Eric's really fucking good at it. So Eric usually scores more often than not. But like beyond that, it's just like pass it. And like honestly, Eric probably should pass it more because he's so fucking good at it. They're always sending 2 at Eric. Like someone's always open. I don't know.
Caleb and Justin, I think, got blocked by like 3 guys at the same time on Providence, like several times in the last game. Look, the Hausen point I wanted to bring up, because you put him out there and you have a guy who's a fucking money 3-point shooter. Mm-hmm. Like, guys, you're in the paint. Just look up for a second. You're a 6th-year senior, 5th-year senior. Like, holy shit. Like, fucking whiz a pass out of there when you're drawing a double and reverse the ball around and get the ball to Brendan Hausen who can shoot the shit out of the ball. It's crazy. It's just so annoying to watch. And like I said, Brian asked me if I was going to rant before the podcast, and I said I don't know about that. Like, but like I like this has me like I'm still heated 24 hours later. Did I expect to win at a ranked Providence team coached by Ed Cooley the way they're playing and the way their fans are coming together lately? No. But like, did I expect to look competent after the last 3 games? Yeah. Like we have the full complement of our team, right? Like we should look competent, right? And I actually think at this point the Neptune criticism is a little tired. Like sorry, you should have expectations of the players on the court, right? Like there's nothing there, right? Like that they can't do, and yet they can't do any of it. And so I'm tired. I'm really tired.
One Hausen note, I was just curious, like where does he sit all time right now? In a single season, he's shooting 42.6% from 3.
Great number.
Yeah, he's shooting 42.6. That puts him at 5th all time in 3-point field goal percentage for a
Oh,
single
shit.
season at Villanvoa.
Wow.
So in a single season, and obviously he's not doing it on the volume that these other ones have done it at, but
Yeah.
Sadiq Bey is number 1, Eric Ebers is number 2, McHale was number 3, Corey Stokes is 4, and Hausen at 42.6 would be number 5, and then Gary Buchanan's right below him. Like that's what we're dealing with in terms of a shooter. He's, as a freshman, already having a top 5 season in Villanova shooting history.
I still think the
weird to
Sadiq
say?
Bey was on like the weirdest heater ever in that entire season. So like it's such an anomaly. I don't think people will break that. But anyway,
Is
go
it
ahead.
weird to say that I think Hausen's shooting percentage would increase if he had a little bit more volume? Like I realize that like the more volume you shoot, theoretically it comes down.
Oh, you're talking more of like a
But I
rhythm.
actually
like
think
if he's
that
like if he's playing
yeah,
more, he's
from
in
a
the rhythm.
rhythm
He's just getting
standpoint,
more.
like
Yeah.
I actually think that if he shot more, he would convert more.
I don't disagree.
He's that good.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Yeah.
Would he be more apt to be undercover on the court?
All right, let's. I don't know. No one passes it to him, so Jesus Christ. Let's take a step back of this and put ourselves in the context of the rest of the season here. So we got Xavier coming up on Tuesday. We'll get into that a little bit later. Then we got Creighton at home, Seton Hall away, UConn to finish the season at home before the Big East tournament, which is at this point a guarantee that we're playing on Wednesday, not officially, but we can go ahead and pencil us in for Wednesday. The question right now is, are we going to be 6, 7, or 8? And Harry at the moment to kind of fully stamp us in to one of those. We're currently 7th at 7-9. Right above us is Seton Hall at 9-8, who we have the 1-0 advantage of over. And I think we should beat them at their place that game later in the season. Obviously, they're tough to play at home, but it's a game that after watching the first game, I came away thinking we're better than them. Like,
Yeah.
And I think we should beat them. And I think we should beat them at home. And then you have St. John's, who's 6-11, so we're a game and a half up on them, and we have a 2-0 advantage against them. So in theory, if this team wins like one more game, we should be safe to be into that 6-7 slot. And so if you're thinking of purchasing tickets, the Wednesday is a triple header. So Villanova fans, we're not used to this. But the Wednesday tickets are a triple header. So just so you know, so if you buy a ticket to that session, you get to go to all of 3 games. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you get to do that. So you're good there. But if you're assuming that we could get a win versus DePaul or Georgetown or Butler in the first game, which I still think is a fair bet, then you're probably at the point where you could probably safely buy Thursday night session tickets. If we slip all the way down into the St. John's, where they are currently at the 8th seed, then we will be in the opening session on Thursday morning or afternoon. in the noon game versus the 1 seed. I think that we'll probably avoid that. St. John's doesn't look good, and we're game and a half up and have that 2-game head-to-head lead on them. But that's kind of like just putting us like just kind of taking a step back and looking at that like, okay, what do you want to look at here? Like, I think we're going to be in that 7 seed bracket of finding our way, playing like the 7-10, and then getting to the 2-7 game the next day.
So I'm about to say something completely insane. Where we can start. I mean, in this, I'm trying to be positive. Is it weird that out of the 3 teams at the top, I'd want to see Marquette the most, even though they're likely to be the 1 seed at this stage? They're in the driver's seat at this stage. I'd rather see Marquette out of any of them.
Just because why? Because they're like a different style or what?
I feel like we match up best like with them across the board. I think like the way I've seen it is, I mean, outside of Kolek, I feel, and like Iguodala is good, but I feel like their wings, like, we're able to match up well with them, and even though we're undersized, their wings aren't overly. Their wings play like guards to me. Like Joplin plays like a guard. Omax plays like, I mean, he's wing type, but like between Slater and Cam and like Moore and Daniels, we just have enough bodies to throw at them. I've liked how we've played them both games thus far, to where I'm like, I don't know, neutral site ever like early, on a Thursday. I don't know how many Marquette fans are going to be traveling for the Thursday game. They might be like, oh, we'll be there for Friday. And that's one where I'm like, I don't know. I don't hate that. I'm saying this, we're going to lose by 44 to whoever, but I'm just like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know. I like that matchup more than I like the Creighton one, more than I like, well, not Creighton, but more than I like the Xavier one, more than I like Providence realistically. And I don't think Creighton has a chance to get up there anyways.
Yeah,
I can get on board with it.
I think I can get on board with it. I feel like they haven't shot well once versus us in either game, even with decent looks. But the thing with Marquette is that they don't have a big man who can take it to Eric. So to your point, there is that matchup wise, we don't get exposed from rebounding, or just like they need a bucket. Like even versus Providence, like I don't look. Eric Dixon plays out of position at the 5, right? Like so just as call a spade a spade. Like Ed Croswell has developed way more than I ever thought he would. But at points in that game when Providence needed a bucket, they got it down low to Croswell, who scored. And like we just struggle with a guy like that. Like just in the way that like Xavier can run a Nunji, that UConn can run not even a Sonogo because Dixon's the Sonogo killer, but Klingon, or Creighton can run a Kalkbrenner. Like it's just like there's just like that. Not we did like every other team has a guy
has the dominant big,
has a dominant big, whereas Marquette does not, and their guard play is what does it for them. Now, I have this funny feeling that if we played them in the Big East tournament, I feel like they're going to get lights out shooting wise, and we're going to run into problems. Yeah, so and like also, we're asking for it.
Yeah,
for Marquette.
Also, I realized I misspoke. I was switching Creighton and Providence. Creighton still has a chance as the 2 seed. Providence is the one who's in the 4 spot. So I realized
Providence right now, I think, is ahead of Creighton. No, they're all 12-4. The Marquette's 13-3.
Creighton's favored more than Providence to get at least a share of it. I think just the way the rest of the schedule is breaking down.
Providence has to play at UConn. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah. I mean, look, if you're mapping out the Big East tournament, Villanova needs to win one more game, right? Like, I think one more game probably gets the job done to get the 6 or 7 to get the 7th spot. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I know. It just makes you want to fucking cringe.
Got to get one more to lock up that 7th spot, baby.
Honestly, like you want to talk about rooting for the Big East in March Madness? I might be rooting the most for the Big East in March Madness than ever before.
Yeah,
because we're not going to be in it, and like it would probably make me feel a little better to know that Marquette, Xavier, Providence, Creighton, and UConn do damage in the NCAA tournament. To know that, like, okay, like they were really hard teams to play, and so like I could live with myself a little bit better based on that.
Yeah.
This will be, I'm just doing some quick math. This will be the first time since the new Big East that we haven't been a 1 or a 2.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just going.
In the Big East tournament.
Yeah, the Big East tournament.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
No.
Yeah, the
We've
big-
been,
yeah.
Oh, no, I was like, yeah, it was 2018.
In the Big East tournament, yeah.
yeah.
That
But in the
makes
first few years of the new Big East, we were a 2, then we were a 1, then we were a 2, then we were a 1, then we were a 1, then we were a 6, then no tournament. But we were probably going to be a 3,
Yeah. Then we were
a 5,
a 5.
and then we were a 2. So
Were we a 3 in 16 or were we a 2? I thought we were a 3.
we were a 2 in 2016.
Really?
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. We were 2. We were 2, and actually the argument was that we probably had an argument to be a
To be a
1,
1.
but the committee
Protected
devalued
UNC.
us
Yeah.
because of our 1 performance the year before versus NC State.
And they also were protecting UNC because
They were
UNC was
protecting
playing-
UNC.
That's
They
right.
swapped
That's
us and
right. Yeah,
Xavier
yeah, I
because
remember that.
we were supposed to be playing them in Philadelphia, and they're like, we can't
Yeah.
do that to them. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got this week. All right. So you come back from Providence, and we got at the Cintas Center and home versus Creighton coming up. No big deal. Just a couple top 25 teams that we gotta play against. So I hope that goes well. No, in all seriousness, Xavier, if there is a team that we can beat away, and I'm not saying that we have a great chance, but Xavier is dealing with some illnesses. Fremantle, who carved us up in the last game, is hurt and still hurt. And so Xavier isn't playing with their full complement right now. And so if there is a team that is gettable on the road, that is a top level team, Xavier is probably it. And then you got Creighton at home. So my ask of our team is a 1-on-1 split this week. That's my ask. Is my expectation that we're going to go 1-on-1? Nope.
my ask is 2-0 because why are we asking for 1-on-1? It doesn't matter.
I mean, we might as well ask for it. So
Yeah, it's a fair point. That's a fair point. My belief is 1-on-1.
Yeah.
My ask is 2-0. My belief is 1-on-1. My expectation is 0-2. But
I'm going on too.
yeah,
I mean, somebody's got to be the negative one here. So that's
yeah. No, I mean, look, I would say in the scheme of positivity, this is probably on my lowest end so far this year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's singing the praises, but Xavier's defense has been bad all year. Over the last 10, I think it's like, I'm looking at it right now, it's like 130th in the country.
Yeah.
So they're missing people. It's a chance to get a resume win. It's a Tuesday. I don't know how wild it gets in Cincinnati on a Tuesday. I'm sure it actually gets really wild on Tuesday in Cincinnati on Tuesdays. But
What the fuck else I got to do?
yeah, and I mean, as we heard earlier when we were talking to Paul, they hate us, and beating us at home was super important, or on the road, I should say. So I'm sure protecting the house is still going to be just as important. And also, if they're at this stage they're playing for tournament positioning as well. Like I think they came in at 16th in the.
They were the last.
They were the last team
in the top 4 seeds.
yeah.
Yes.
So
we beat them, and that knocks them.
That knocks them out realistically,
Yeah.
barring us going on a run. This is huge for them as well. This is we're a quad 3. We'd be a quad 3 loss. So that's not happening. Xavier's not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah. And then Creighton, no big deal. Just play Creighton, who is all of a sudden newly good again. Well, not newly good again. They're just good again. They played a thriller. They played an awesome
really good
game versus Providence the other night.
St. John's. Oh, you mean the Providence game? I thought you.
Oh,
meant
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the St. John's game.
I thought the St. John's game was really good too. That's why.
Yeah, that's fair. But the game versus Providence was one of
Yeah.
the games of the Big East season, the double overtime game that happened at the Dunk before, or the AMP, if you will, before.
The AMP. Oh, such a downgrade name.
I actually like it.
You can, I
Because,
guess
like,
you
amp-
can get it,
amp
but the
it
dunk
up,
was
yeah.
fun. The dunk was fun. Just,
I just like Dunkin' Donuts as a company more than Amica Mutual. So how about that?
You're not a big Amica Mutual fan? I'm
Nah,
shocked.
I'm not.
Real
But
subtle layer of
I
people
do
over
have
at
Dunkin'
Amicable
Donuts
Mutual.
every single day of my life. Every single day I have Dunkin' Donuts.
Amica Mutual, if you want to sponsor the podcast.
I don't have Amica
or-
Mutual every day of my life.
Yeah. The full 40 presented by Amicable Mutual. I like it.
I mean, I'd be down for it. It's probably some good sponsorship money.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just to be clear, like Amica Mutual, I'm sure you're a wonderful company. And we'd love
Wonderful.
to have you sponsor us.
We'd even prefer them over Dunkin' Donuts. How about that?
If they were to come to us and ask for a sponsorship, I would prefer them over Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I prefer their offer over the offer we have from Dunkin'.
And we're not even speaking of Dunkin' Donuts correctly because their name is Dunkin'.
Just Dunkin'
Like,
now.
Like
yeah.
it's not Dunkin' Donuts. Like
Yeah.
they just happen to sell donuts. And you're supposed to dunk in the coffee, which tastes delicious if you ever done it.
I've actually never done it.
It's actually great, but like I've always been a chocolate glaze guy, so we're really fucking off the deep end now.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's go.
I've always been a chocolate glaze guy.
Put
But
ice
I
in
watched.
the-
Do you ever watch the Jerry Seinfeld comedians in cars getting coffee or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Okay, he went with Zach Galifianakis to like donut shops, and they were drinking like so much fucking. First of all, I don't know how they didn't bounce off the walls. Like my heart would literally fucking explode. Like eating as many donuts and drinking as much coffee, but they were sitting there dunking these glazed donuts, and finally I was just like, I gotta try this. Like I think the next day I went out and got like a regular glazed donut, dunked it in the coffee. Fucking unbelievable.
This
Like,
donut
just-
talk makes
just
me
like-
want a donut now. That's
just
happening
a just
after this.
a revelation. Like honestly, get a regular glazed donut from Dunkin' Donuts. Dunk it in their coffee. Don't dunk it in iced coffee. That's weird. It's just you don't need that. Like dunk it in a hot coffee. This is a time of the year to do it before it gets warm out. And you gotta start drinking iced coffee again. Dunk your donut in your hot coffee. Let some of that sugar from the glazed donut fall into your coffee. Let that coffee soak into the donut. It's just a marriage made in heaven. It really is. It really is. Because the sweetness adds some value to the coffee too. Both get better from the experience. That's the best part. That's the best part of the whole thing.
That's wonderful. And this segment was brought to you Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
America runs on Dunkin'.
Okay.
It's good marketing right there.
All right.
That shit works. Unlike our offense.
Jesus fucking Christ. No, our offense doesn't run ever.
Our offense keeps getting decaf, and then you wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
God.
Villanova doesn't run. All right. So we talked about all that. Let's just quickly hit on the women's game because we got to. Brian has to stop this at 9:20 and it's 9:15.
Oh, it's true. It's 4 minutes.
We
Yeah.
have to hit on this. Villanova women, they just came
I
up short.
just want to tell you, you have extra minutes. The person asked me if I was conducting business in here, and I said I was on a work call. And they looked at the screen, and
Okay.
They looked at the screen.
I was
Saw
like,
a couple
"These are
guys
my
in hats.
we're getting ready for the market to open tomorrow." It's not open tomorrow. That was my joke.
They got some. I got the whiskey going on in the background. I'm slurring my fucking words.
He
So
was like, "Sir, are you conducting business in here?" I was like, "Oh yeah."
big time business,
Yes.
baby.
So I just wanted you to know you didn't have to feel rushed.
Well, I appreciate that. But no one wants to listen to us anymore anyway. So let's just talk quickly.
Yeah.
Maddie put up 39 the other night. So kudos to her. She had 89 points in 2 games. And 21 versus UConn. Unfortunately, UConn's really good. And it's crazy to say that because arguably their 2 best players are out this year.
It's wild how good they are without their 2. I mean, that's just
Yeah, it was nuts.
testament to that program.
We were there at the end though. If you didn't watch the game, we were right there at the end. We actually, Maddie had a chance to cut it to 2 with like a minute and a half, 2 minutes left or whatever, missed a free throw. We had another chance to cut it to 2. We missed 2 free throws. So like whatever, they won by a few, but like it was actually quite close and it should have been even closer. But yeah, kudos to the girls. Awesome. Like the fact that pavilion sold out was just
They outshot us at the free throw line by 11. They were 17 and 26. We were 6 and 12. That's the game right there, you know?
Yeah. And that's not to say I thought we got a bad whistle. I actually thought we got a decent whistle in the game. sometimes you miss a lot of shots, and unfortunately, in that
It's a
moment,
make or miss league.
yes, and in that moment, we did miss a lot of shots. But kudos to the fans. It was loud on television. It really sounded like people were into it. It was a sellout. It was our second sellout of all time from the Villanova women, which is cool. And I have to say this this Villanova women's program, Denise Dillon needs to capitalize off this run that Maddie's having and this run that they're having, because they're about to make 2 consecutive NCAA tournaments. In this NCAA tournament, they're probably going to be a top 5 seed. I think they'll win out from here. And then we might match up again versus UConn in the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
But like, we got to win out, whatever. We have a genuine chance to be a top 4. I think maybe the ship has sailed on the 3 seed unless we beat UConn in that Big East final. But a top 4 seed, which means you're hosting at least a game or 2 games at home in theory before you go to the regional, because that's the way the women's tournament works. So I'd like to see them do that, because this program can make a Sweet 16. Denise Dillon's competitive, man.
She's one hell of a coach.
She's oh yeah, she's fired up too. She's fucking into it. So like, I think that she's going to get this program rolling, but she's got to capitalize off this here, because it's like women's basketball is like the top like 7 or 8 teams are like talent wise, like leaps and bounds. Yeah. And then you got another like 20 team group. And then it really falls off from there, like in a way that the men's basketball is like, there's like, you know, you get your elite teams every year, but then you have your consortium of teams that where you say, oh, there's, you know, it's pretty even Steven from there. Like women's basketball, it falls off really quickly. Denise has an opportunity to get this program into that like top, like maybe 1A echelon. And so a game like what we just had, and these moments and these opportunities with UConn in the conference too, are all opportunities to really turn this into something important here. And I really hope they do that. And so I think that more than anything else, the symbol, like what that game symbolized, what that was, that maybe this program has arrived.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Will.
No, yeah, I agree. You're right. I think there's the sellout, like you said, is the biggest indication. I was like, there's a chance to really like, I mean, and we'll figure out who replaces Maddie. Like I'm expecting Lucy Olsen to, you know, take another step next year, but I'm assuming Maddie decides to go to the draft. There's a lot of momentum coming, and I think Denise Dillon's the woman to be at the helm for this, to, like you said, pull us into that. I wouldn't call it 1B, because I feel like there's like a rotation of teams that are always in the one, like there's the 1As, which is like your UConns, your Tennessees, your Stanfords, your Notre Dames. And then your 1Bs are ones that like kind of rotate, where like Baylor's going to be really good for a couple seasons, and then they'll fall off a little bit. South Carolina is kind of like the new, where they're really good. Louisville they're always around. I think we have a chance to be at that next-ish level, and then from there take that leap in. I mean, this is just a chance for both teams to be like bona fide huge basketball programs, and I really am excited what Denise is doing here. So, like you said, let's capitalize. And getting a game on campus would be huge.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that on Twitter, I admire like UConn's fans. Like they're really into it. Like they're genuinely, like you watch them on any given day, and because both teams play two times a week, but like you're getting 4 days a week in which like UConn fans are talking about basketball. We're like. And like, so I've heard some criticism. I want to get into this just a quick bit, maybe on another podcast, talk a little bit more. But like, I hear some criticism. Oh, you're only talking about it because the men's team isn't good. Well, no, I mean, we have a National Player of the Year candidate. Like this is a pretty big deal. Like, and we're top 15. Like, I think more than anything else, we're talking about it because they're really good. right? Like, and in my lifetime as a Villanova fan, right, like we've had maybe 1 or 2 other years where we've been really good. So point being is that we'll talk about Villanova fans are like looking for programs to be really good. When the football team's really good, we're talking about them. Like when Matt Caesar and that team won the national championship, like I was all over it. I watched every fucking game that year, right? Like the bottom line is if you're really good, we're going to pay attention. So I hope that they do that because I do think that there is a value to Villanova, etc., in being a perennial powerhouse in women's basketball, just in the same way I view it as the football team in the same way at the 1AA level. So like
someone needs to take
FCS
swings at UConn women, just like there needs to be someone else so they can't just run unfettered through the conference. And we're taking a step up. Creighton's taking a step up. DePaul's good. Like this is a good, as much as the move for the Big East was great for the men. This is a huge move for the women's team because they just weren't remotely challenged in the AAC, and now there's more challenge day in and day out to them. They're still going to be the cream of the crop.
Totally.
Probably in perpetuity. Yeah, as long as Gino's there. And honestly, probably after that. But being able to, just show that they can bleed is really big. And I mean, Villanova women have already done that. They beat them last year. We've been in 2 great games. Like they're not invincible. Also, granted, they don't have their 2 best players, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. All right. So we'll be back with you guys after the Creighton game next week. We're recording again on Sunday. So look out for us. That will be our podcast previewing the last week of the season. It's almost over, guys. We're almost there. So look, thank you everybody for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.